Hi, my name's Frederick Lee. I want to mention first off that I was awarded an honorary doctorate of metaphysical science for this information that I'm giving you. It's new, it's original. I don't think you've ever heard anything like it before. And to me, the honorary doctorate, I mention that because I'm an uneducated person. I've never been to a public school. I'm self-taught. And I've been blessed. At the age of 8, I had a 16.0 reading and comprehension level. In other words, I was reading like somebody, reading and comprehending as well, like somebody that'd been to college for 4 years. And I've got some unique aptitudes. I was tested, had a battery of aptitude tests done on me recently. And I was found to be in the superior range in all of the aptitudes. And basically, I took the aptitude test after having had myself tested psychologically, because actually I had an experience that evolved into a total intellectual evolution. And I thought I'd lost my mind, because the thought processes I was having, the things that were going on in my life, they weren't like anything I'd ever heard about before, anything I'd ever seen. And I was given a thumbs up by the psychiatrist. They said, you're an intelligent guy. You've got some unique theories. They don't agree with them. Their statement was that they don't agree with them because that's not the way they were taught. But hey, you're not crazy anyway. And so in the process of all that, I had my aptitudes tested, and like I said before, it was proven in the superior range. So the idea is I'm just trying to give you a little background, so you if you're wondering, well, where does this guy come up with this stuff? And it's just because I have a different way of looking at things. And anyway, sort of like if you ever wondered, this is what I want to cover in this video, is science. The way that we perceive science, our understanding of it, which is very, very limited, and you have to imagine, if you look back through history, I mean, we've come a long way. Back in the old days, they were calling subatomic matter, spirit, that's spirit, yet in our modern ages, we have got the electron microscope, and we understand what they mean by spirit. Okay, spirit, yes, subatomic energy. So see, it's little things like that in our understanding of what everything's made of. I just want to give you my 2 cents on what science really is about. And this is common sense stuff that you can't deny, because you've been going through your life and you've been saying, wow, I wonder why this happens. Why do I have deja vu? How could a prophet do prophecy? Why does this happen? Why does that happen? How come it is when you click 2 rocks together, there's a spark? What magic is it that keeps me pinned to this earth? Why is it I'm not floating around like if I were outer space, or, any of these variables? So, see, I hope to just give you a full understanding of what these things are, because you can understand them. It's very actually elementary once you get beyond what the program's been saying. Science is basically based on findings that were done ages ago, and in my opinion, this is the new stuff. And I want to mention to you, I'm going to give you some stuff that will blow you away. I've actually come across some anomalies in the English language that in my opinion show proof, absolute irrefutable proof of a quantum entity that's in the past, present, and future, that is integrated into us, a higher self intelligence that is part of the foundational construct of our universe, that sort of tries to keep everything in alignment, in motion, so it just doesn't go absolute chaos. Now, I'm just going to start off, and I'm just going to start laying things on you. Okay, you've ever wondered what happens when you click 2 rocks together? What's that magic? Where does that spark come from? Okay, some very basic physics facts. Okay, everything that you see around you, everything you touch, everything that you physically interact with is made of what science calls atoms. Okay, an atom is the smallest particle of physical matter. Okay, they're the building blocks of all physical creation. Okay, there's few more than 100 of these atoms, just 100, a few more than 100, and they come together to make everything. You have oxygen atoms, hydrogen atoms, mix those two together, you've got water molecules, okay, and carbon atoms, etc., etc., etc. So, anyway, it was scientifically proven in the 1960s that the nucleus of an atom, okay, you've heard of that, you know, they're blowing cities up with nuclear energy, they're powering cities with it. It's the most powerful energy known to man, okay? Nuclear energy. That's the core component of an atom, which is the smallest particle of matter. Okay, now what happens here is the nucleus is made of what are called subatomic particles. So if it's non-physical, that would be the same as what I'm saying before, spiritual energy, subatomic energy. So the nucleus is made of positive and neutral charges, okay, and it's the negative charges of energy that make they're called electrons, that entrap that positive and neutral energy. It keeps it contained, okay? So you have that little ball of energy in there, which it was scientifically proven in the 1960s by physicists that the nucleus of an atom, of all atoms, is a particle of light, okay? So everything that you see, touch, feel around you is at a foundational level has light in it, okay? And this is why you can consider this is why we have auras. You know, it's a sure sign that we have some light in us. And anyway, the electrons or the negative charges of the atom, right? There will be up to 7 shells of electrons that hold that nucleus in there. If it's a really strong powered, you know, high energy nuclei, you know, high energy atom, it'll have up to 7 shells of electrons entrapping it. And you won't hear this anywhere else, but I know that it has everything to do with the 7 visible colors of the light spectrum. You know, that little atom is letting you know it's there. It's got that light in there and it's shining. It's letting you know who it is and what it is. And I mean to tell you, the light that's within that is intelligent. Okay, even our thoughts are the evolution of light. You know, our synapse is a light element. You know, you burn hydrogen and carbon, it releases its emanation, its energy, and that's light energy. So you know, just keep that in mind. Now, what happens when you click 2 rocks together? You have these 2 dense elements, and you click them together, and what you've done is you've broken an atom open, and you've allowed it to release its energy. Okay, now that energy is typically a high frequency energy, right? You can blow a city up, power a city with it. And what it does is high frequency energy goes up. Okay, fire, in what I'm telling you about. Now, low frequency energy, which is in the same spectrum, which would be electricity, ground. So low frequency energy goes down, high frequency energy goes up. Okay, so when you break that atom open and it releases its energy, it will try to come back to source. In other words, it will try to find its naturally magnetically attracted or compelled to find its source. And what I'm saying is all energy is connected. You know, it's going in different directions all the time, but it's all connected. That's actually what they're talking about when they say quantum energy. Quantum energy is a universal body of light. Okay, here I am talking about all these little individual atoms, the air we breathe, all these various gases in the atmosphere, the stuff we walk on, all of it, all of those little light particles that are all in all of those little atoms, they're all interconnected. In other words, they're a universal body of light. That's what quantum energy is, okay? So something that is very unique that has happened to me, and I mentioned I have a strange way of thinking, but when I look at words, I find acronyms, okay? And this started after a near-death experience and a fast. There were several things that happened, and all of a sudden something opened up for me. A door opened up for me, and I've actually found that the English language is a development. It's a creation, and it was developed by a universal mind, which I'm saying is light. And you might say, well, this guy's totally crocked and he's out of it, he's crazy, bull. But the truth of the matter is I'm telling you, this information has been submitted to people that have some authority on this subject, and they found it to be valid, and I was awarded an honorary doctorate of metaphysical science. And so please bear with me. And the reason I bring it up about the English language is because in some of my later videos after this one, I'm going to explain 4 different codes to you that have never been seen before. And they're integrated right into our English language and alphabet and our numerical system. And anyway, one of the codes is very simple. I mean, maybe I can keep your interest just by revealing a portion of it to you at this time. The words in the English language, BOW, okay, is an acronym, Basic Offensive Weapon, okay? Basic, B-A-S-I-C. What is basic? Bare and simple in conception, or bare and simple in construction. Okay, what's an arrow? A rigid rod of wood. Okay, if you think you're intelligent, if that was an acronym. Individual's nature to employ learned lessons and gaining evolved new tendencies. Okay, let me think, a word like of, originates from. Okay, and you know, I could keep going on forever. I tell you what, I've developed all those videos. It's called Reverend Dr. Lee's channel. If you want to check into that more, you can look there. But for the purpose of this video in particular, I'm going to cut to the chase. And I bring that up for a couple reasons. One reason is to prove that light is in the past, present, and future at the same time. In other words, we're rating the speed of light. But that's a whole other dimension to the true reality of what light is and what its potential and capacities are. Okay, so I want to prove that, and not only that, but I'm going to explain about a universal intelligence that has been within us and around us. I mean, you could call it God. I'm tempted to, because that's what I've been taught. I was brought up a Christian. But more than anything, it is a reactive principle. It's an integrated part of all creation. And it sort of works like if you're in tune with it, you know, you're working in harmony. But if you're violating it, you know, so you could say that's good and evil, or you sin, or you're a follower of faithful belief. It's the same thing. But the reality of it is it's a reactive principle, and it's a lot just cause and effect. You get what you give, and in a very big way. And now, to prove that light is in the past, present, and future, I have a couple ways of doing that. Number one is the fact that this code is in place. In other words, what I'm saying is that quantum energy, you know, these little light particles that's in everybody, okay, that energy has a beginning point. Okay, in the Bible they even talk about it. It says on the first day God brought forth the light. So there's some intelligence that understood that prior to a certain event there was no light. There was something else. There was science calls it primordial ooze, blue-green algae. In other words, it was a different light environment. It was more nuclear energy. You know, there was no emanation of light. There was a solid substance of light. Okay, if you can imagine a pure luminous light reality without the harsh emanation of light. Okay, which is an ignition. Okay, so anyway, in the Bible it says that on the first day God brought forth a light. In science they call that the Big Bang. And science has even found a way to trace the background radiations from that event. And they're tracing it in an effort to find the singularity or what it is that actually ignited into the Big Bang. Okay, now, so that's saying that light and the emanation of light has a beginning point. Okay, And then light has different frequencies. There's actually up to 1,000 frequencies. It's my statement that thought is the highest frequency of light. In other words, it's the fastest, and I believe that can be proven. I mean, some guy told me that Mythbusters had proved this wrong, but I don't think so. The research I've done says this is true. And there's actually a book written called The Secret Life of Plants. And what they did that proved thought is instantaneous. In other words, it doesn't take time. It's instantaneous. Is they hooked up a plant to an EKG. They did this over and over and over. They did this scientifically, okay, and they wrote a book about it, The Secret Life of Plants. Okay, now anyway, they hook up a plant to the EKG. They say you could take the plant on the other side of the globe, put it on the furthest end of the universe, wherever, just put it somewhere, and then have a person somewhere else, anywhere else, think about that plant. And what they proved is that the plant reacts instantaneously. In other words, there's no, at the very instant you think about it, it reacts instantaneously. Another experiment they did that sort of proves to me that light is in the past, present, and future is the fact that when you hook up a plant to an EKG, you can go to mutilate it, to kill it, to tear it up, and it will go flatline prior to the event. In other words, it knows what's going to happen to it prior to the event. So it's got a type of ESP. It has it's integrated part of this light continuum I'm talking about. So in other words, light has a beginning point. It emanates forth, first thought, the conception, the thought. Okay, now the thought, okay, as these frequencies or radiations keep passing, you got to imagine this light energy is enmeshed and integrated into dark matter, because there is only light and dark matter. Okay, and once it gets enmeshed in dark matter, it starts changing. It turns dark matter into red matter, gray matter, and all these different matters. But what happens is, since light is a connected, unified body, it always wants to mend itself. It wants to come back to form. It wants to develop into life. Okay, it's pure intelligence. So what happens is, as these radiations or waves of light come into manifestation and catch up with the first thought, then they're coming into form. Okay, so we're talking about creation and evolution, okay, at the same time, because the thought's already there, but it takes increments of time for it to come into manifestation. One of the statements in the Bible is that at that beginning point, when the first light was born, the first begotten, okay, the first intelligence, it says at that point there was nothing new under the sun. In other words, in that first flash of light, which was the ignition of nuclear energy, everything was perfected in an instant. And then it came into manifestation in waves, because it said first the universe was formed, then this was formed, then plant life, then the animals, and it was not until the sixth day that man was developed. Okay, so it's saying the same thing. And okay, if you ever had deja vu, this is another part. I mean, I'm sure that, see, we're all connected. Me and you, we're from the same root and seed. We came from the same place. We're made of the same stuff. And I know that this has to be ringing true for you. And I'm going to give you some more examples, because, see, the important thing is that we have clarity of mind. All this erratic thinking, not truly understanding who we are, where we came from, what we're all about, that causes inner conflict. That's a negative crux in what should be a positive, strong structure. Clarity of mind is a must for any healthy being. It has to be there. And hopefully these videos that I do will help to install that in you. And the idea is if you've ever had deja vu, everybody has it, and there's no explanation, right? Well, how did that happen? Okay, well, here's how it works. Okay, you're sitting here doing what you're doing, right? The light that's in you, it's connected throughout all creation. At a foundational level, it's a solid, unified body of energy. And it starts at the beginning point, the Big Bang, which is on the first day when God brought forth the light. So it has a beginning point. and it's enmeshed in you and everything past, present, and future. So it's inside of you, and like I said, thought is already in the future. So what happens is the light in you, it's pretty familiar with you. It's been with you throughout the whole trip. So it would develop equations of probability, whether you go left, whether you go right. And it's doing the same thing for the guy next door. It's doing the same thing for people you know. And so what happens is when you get up and you go out the door and you bump into so-and-so and you say, dang, I just had deja vu. There you have it. That's because the light is everywhere all of the time, developing equations of probability that will manifest into life. And it reminds me of that chaos theory that was talked about in Jurassic Park. You know, life will do whatever it can to develop into life or what have you. But also there's an experiment done called the double slit experiment, where scientists shoot a photon through a hole in a piece of iron or something, you know. I don't know why they do it, but they do it. But what they did is they make another slit over here. Okay, so they shoot the photon through this slit, but lo and behold, what happens is the thing somehow goes through both slits. So in other words, that's another, it helps me to understand that, yes, light is everywhere all of the time, doing everything, creating equations, and such and such. And so, okay, we have that done. Now, how does a prophet do prophecy? How could a man possibly go into the future and tell you what's happening unless what I'm saying is true? There's this development of future equations, okay? And it's based on the global unit, okay? And what happens is, since light wants to maintain life, okay, say our future, it's perceived that we're crashing, we're going to have a big crash, okay, what the light will do is it will work within one of us, because we are direct emanations of light. You know, the Bible talks about it by saying we are created in the image of God, and such and such. So in other words, we are the physical manifestation of what the light can manifest into. Now, a lot of people out there think things are different. You know, Jesus, his difference was he was sort of like, you know, they say that this thing with frogs, a male can actually lay eggs. Well, I mean to tell you, back in the days when Christ was around, it was necessary to develop a pure spirit. And that's what happened with Eve, is the Holy Spirit, or this universal spirit of light, understood that he could not be developed of fornication, because there's this dark energy, a lustful dark energy that will actually violate the frequency of light once it's been introduced into the child. Okay, that's part of being born into sin. So anyway, sort of like a frog can impregnate itself, is the same thing that happened with Mary. I know that might sound crazy, but that's the difference between Jesus and us. His light energy was of the highest frequency. Okay, and I'm going to talk about that in some later videos, because what I have to tell you about why Christ came here and what exactly he did for us will blow you away. I mean, and I'm sure that you will see the fluid manner in which my story doesn't break down at all. If you see my story breaking down, you'll know I'm full of poop. I'm not. So, you know, my information is solid. Actually, I want to mention something. The information I'm giving you is encoded in every atom in creation. It's actually got a name. The information I'm giving you is called Book of Life, okay, which is the acronym for Bound, Observable, Original Knowledge, originates from light in focused emanation. Okay, I want to just mention something real quick. Life is the acronym for light in focused emanation. Okay, this is a light reality that's become dense. Okay, back in the old days, you know, how did they build the pyramids? Why were there giants, aliens, and all flying ships, you know, all these different things? What's the difference? Well, the difference is the density of our atmosphere. Back in those days, things were not as heavy as they are now. And that's part of the reason they could build the pyramids. Japan tried building a pyramid 1/10 the scale of the pyramid of Chop. They can't do it. And the way that you can prove this, what I'm saying is true, is the fact that science knows, and they've proven that we're being bombarded 24/7 by various radiations and particles of energy. Okay. Now, what's happened is recently the University of San Diego did some studies, and what they found is that the proton aspect of the atom, which is part of the nucleus, is 4% smaller today than it was 20 years ago. How can that be? Well, here's what goes on, is these radiations, even though we don't perceive it physically or visually, but actually we are perceiving it physically because we've gotten smaller. We're being compacted. That stuff is building up. It's a non-physical integrity, but it's very physical. I should say you can't really sense it. It's almost like we're in a solid stone moving around just because we have light in us. If you took the light out of us, that would be spontaneous combustion. We turn into a pile of dirt. But anyway, what happens is that stuff is compressing the atom, the individual atom, so much that the proton is 4% smaller than it was 20 years ago. You see what I'm saying? So back in the days of Egypt, they have, like the Bible talks about Goliath. Science has found remnants of giants. Okay, we know that there were dinosaurs. Okay, which in the Bible, and I'm drawing these correlations because it's about time there was a marriage between the Bible and science, because they're both talking about the same things. It's only false doctrine that's got all that screwed up, because, we're all from the same family. Science says that, the Bible says it. So, it's about time we started acting like a family, and all this, petty arguments about what's what, creationism, Darwin's theory. They're both a reality. They're both valid. They're both true. And that's all, all relative to your perception based on your experience. And so the idea is you had the dinosaurs, which is expressed and explained as being the old reptile in the Bible. I'm trying to think on more science. Okay, you always have these times when you hear a song in your head, and all of a sudden it's playing on the radio. Or some, say you're thinking about somebody and all of a sudden they call. Okay, that's quantum entanglement. In other words, you have enmeshed your spirit or your mind with the universal body, and it's all connected through frequencies. So your system, your extended system, it's like an antenna that you have in you. It's right in the back of your head. It's called the rhinencephalon complex. If you want to look that up, it's spelled RHEINENCEPHALON, rhinencephalon complex, okay? And science calls it the old reptile complex, okay? Now that complex, you're not going to hear this anywhere else, but it's an antenna. And not only that, but it sends and receives signals. That's our little antenna. That's like the little antennas on top of an ant's head, okay? And our hair is an extension of that. So have you ever been afraid of something? Your hair stands up on you and you don't know what it is, something you that's that thing picking up signals. Okay, that's our intuitive center. Science says it's the oldest, least understood component in our brain. Okay, they don't really understand what it's all about, but they know its core principles are survival, instinct, flight or fright. And it's really where your compulsive core, where you're compelled to do something. So anyway, what happens is you're picking up signals, all the time. So if that signal in the thought dimension is delivered, you hear that song, you receive the signal prior to the reality of it. Okay, another proof that thought is faster than light, or the visual aspect of light. So anyway, that's how, or, if somebody that you're thinking about, they're over there in, the next town, they're thinking about you, they pick up the phone to call you, they're thinking about you. You pick up that signal and you say, oh, wow, I'm thinking about her, and then all of a sudden the phone rings, hey, I was just thinking about you. Okay, now this works a lot of different ways. Because another way it'll work is, this has happened to me, is I like to like people. I mean, I think everybody is totally unique. I don't really like bad people, but I do look at them and think, man, but for the grace of God, therefore, they're, man, I'm not used to talking this much. But for the grace of God, there go I. But anyway, what happens is if you run across somebody that has low self-esteem and they spend a lot of time beating themselves up, or even a homeless person that understands how people perceive them. In other words, you run across somebody that has a self-talk that's stating, oh, they don't like me, I'm ignorant, I'm ugly, I'm fat, all this stuff. See, when you walk up to them, you pick up that signal. You hear it at a subconscious level, and it helps to develop your perception of that person. So for a person like me, that means I start beating myself up because I look at somebody and I start judging them. And I'm thinking, God, I don't want to judge this person. Why is this happening to me? So you see, that's very important information to understand, so you can give yourself a break if you're like me. You're not a bad person. You're just reading that person's signals. Okay? For me, that was a good thing to understand. And not only on those terms, but the fact that my self-talk is having an effect on those around me. Okay, so if I'm sitting here thinking I'm superior to somebody, they're reading that. They understand who I am at a subconscious level. Well, this pig thinks he's better than me. Who the hell does he think he is? Or if I'm beating myself up, they might either feel pity for me, or they might just decide I'm weak and, hey, he's just a punk, or, any way that the wind blows, that's how that can go. Okay. One of the final things I want to hit on this video is, I've had several near-death experiences in my life. In other words, I've died and come back to life. And the experiences I've had have been varied and different every time. The first, I have recall of my subatomic body, or my spirit body, leaving my physical body, okay, a separation, and levitating. I'm sure a lot of people have had that same experience. I've talked to quite a few that have. So there's a separation there. During my last experience, what happened was I had not eaten for over 10 days, or about 10 days. And I'd been thinking appropriate thoughts. I wasn't negative. I was on an even keel. I was fairly neutral. Okay, so during this last experience that I had, about 8, 9, 10 years ago, I had a full, there's some reason my spirit body, my subatomic body, and I'm sure it's because I hadn't eaten and because of my attitude, there was a full separation. So what I'm saying is my subatomic anatomy was in a very high frequency. So when my spirit left my physical body, I went straight up, like fire goes up, when you light a flame, that going up, and I went straight up, okay. And what happened, this might sound delusional and crazy to you, but please sit through it. And I think this might, after your consideration and contemplation and, allowing the spirit of discernment to guide you, I'm sure that you will find this to be a very acceptable theory or a very acceptable belief. What happened was I went up, okay, and I came to light, okay? I went into the light and I came out into an environment that was pure light, okay? Now, something you can do for yourself is you can go to NASA.com and look up something called quasar. No, it's called space.com, and it's a site that's run by NASA. Anyway, look up the word quasar, Q-U-A-S-A-R. And what you'll find is that a quasar is something that was found by science, and it's on the outermost perimeter of our visible universe. Big energy system. At first I think they thought it was a big star or solar type entity that was just blowing out tons and tons of proton radiation, positive energy, okay? But what they found is that they have black holes in the center of them. Okay, now it's my statement. What happened to me is when I my spirit body left me, I went into a black hole, okay, or into this quasar, and I came out into a pure light environment. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. This is what happened to me. I wouldn't believe it was true were it not for the physical sensations that I felt, because I'm very familiar with what it feels like to dream, and this was a whole other experience. I came out into this light reality. There was a ground, okay? The first sensation I started having was expansion, like a release. It was like all those little nuclei that are entrapped in this dark matter, you know, being compressed by those electrons. They were just released, and I was able to expand. Okay, the environment I perceived was green landscape. It was varying colors of lime, luminous greens, okay? And the sensation was one of wholeness, being absolutely satisfied, fullness of sensation gratification. There was nothing missing, no holes, no lacking, nothing. Anyway, I was sort of, once I came to in this reality, I started considering where was I at, and I turned around and looked to see where I'd come from, and I saw something. I didn't understand what I was looking at first, but I've come to realize that what I was looking at is our physical universe. And what I perceived, compared to my size, what I perceived was a physical anatomy, much like a human anatomy, without arms, legs, or head. In other words, a human torso that was probably about, I don't know how you measure size there, because it's all relative, but as I sit here, it would have been about 3 feet long, probably about a foot wide, foot and a half wide. And probably something like a physical body just like mine, but without arms, legs, and head. Okay, when I first saw it, I could tell it was alive because it had a darker integrity to it. It wasn't luminous like everything else. It had almost like it had a tan or something. Anyway, when I saw it, my heart sort of went, whoa. Some scientist did some crazy experiment, and I didn't understand what was going on, and I felt this deep sense of compassion for it, you know, like, oh my God. And I walked up towards it, and I remember reaching down to touch it, and right before I touched it, it quivered. I watched it quiver. And then what happened from that point is I got sucked back into it. And I witnessed what happened as I got sucked back into it. And once again, that was our physical universe. Okay, when I got sucked back into it, what I saw is immediately was arcing energy. In other words, that the flesh on this physical body I saw sucked in or absorbed that pure light energy. In other words, out there in those other dimensions or that heavenly realm, there's no electrons. It's just pure light energy. And that the flesh on the body that I'm telling you about transmutes that flesh, breaks it down into 1,000 frequencies, and it's injected into our reality through the quasar. Okay? Makes perfect sense, right? So anyway, you know, science, they've been having a lot of stuff on the internet and TV about, there was a scientist that was given an award because he proved that the science universe is expanding and all this. You know, and mind you, I'm not denying that that's true or anything, because I know that there are portions of the universe expanding. But here's an alternative that I'm sure you'll agree with, okay? After having undergone that situation, I understand that a new star is energy being expelled, okay? And that a black hole is energy being absorbed. In other words, it's like two ends of an artery. So you have blood coming in and blood going out. And what I'm saying is that all these different planets you see, all these different systems are all connected. And it's exactly like the human anatomy. Okay, you have, it's just that same type of system. Now, that might be hard to believe, but using these acronyms I was telling you about in one of the other codes, which is a similar facsimile code, Earth is an acronym for evolve and return to heaven. In other words, we come here, we have an experience, and we have the potential and the aptitudes to evolve ourselves into light beings. In other words, to shed the electrons and become a full-blown light being. Okay, not only that, but if you take H off of the end of Earth and put it in front, you have heart. So in other words, our little system here is the heart of this physical anatomy I'm telling you about. In other words, all of the intelligences that can possibly exist or manifest are here on Earth. And we come from the same seed. We're all variables or probabilities of the very same thing. And this includes everything that has a DNA strand. Okay, so let me try, I'm going to give you some information. Maybe it can help, you know, because if you're under the impression that our universe is just infinite, you know, I've got some stuff here I think that can help you to give you a better perception of what's going on out there. Okay, imagine this. If you took your physical body and took it outside of our solar system, what would happen? Compression. It would not be, it would be squashed, okay? The idea is that we measure things here with a ruler, okay? Now, if you take that ruler out there, it's not going to be the same thing, okay? In other words, what I'm saying is things that appear out there are not what they would appear to be. It's not as big as you think. If you can imagine this, okay, you have all these parasites, and they're pretty cool little things. I mean, these things have capabilities, you know. They're motoring around, they're doing things, they're eating, they're reproducing, they're doing everything we do. Okay, can you imagine what it would be like to be a parasite in your body or something of that nature? We must appear to be like our universe appears to us, right? And that's what I'm saying. Okay, one of the anomalies that occurs that might lead a person to believe that our universe is ever expanding is that when you use your eyes and you use a telescope and you look out there, your eyes have a natural aptitude to naturally and magnetically lock on to a certain place in space and time. So when you look out in the universe, your eye locks onto something, you're looking, and you have to realize that the light is traveling everywhere in all directions at 186,000 miles per second. Okay, so since you're locked on and light's coming at you at that rate of speed, it gives you the illusion that the universe is expanding, or maybe that you're getting smaller. And I'm sure that's the experience you've had, and that's what I'm saying. So we're in an enclosed environment. Now, I need to take a rest because I'm not used to talking this much, but in my next videos, I'm going to explain these codes to you, and they're very relevant right now. The reason that this is being afforded to us at this time is because we are in an evolutionary process, okay? And this would be the same thing in the Bible where it's talking about, you know, there will be harvests, you know, the demons will be shed as the chaff of corn, fire shall rain down from the sky, and those type of things. These are all coming into manifestation. And science is seeing it. You know, the recent solar flare activity, that was talked about in the Bible when it says that fire shall rain down from the sky. And what it's doing is those proton radiations are shedding away dark energies that have coagulated in our DNA. Okay, see, it was proven in the 1960s by physicists that all people have dark matter in their DNA. But what they proved is that people who have emotional problems, I mean people that have alcoholics, addicts, bipolar, schizoaffective, murderers, rapists, anybody like that, any bad seed has very large increments of dark matter in their DNA. Now, that's what's happening. A lot of people are having emotional problems now, going through anxieties they don't understand. Some people are really being inundated with dark matter because they've become a dark system. And what's happening, though, is those proton radiations are trying to help us in an effort to shed this dark matter, to bring the light in. There was one other thing I want. Okay, and this has everything to do too. Okay, remember I told you about the compression of the atom and the fact that the proton aspect is 4% smaller? Okay, that's another reason for these solar flares. There's just too much dense integrity. See, and the universal system understands this. So what the solar sun is doing is it's blowing in these proton radiations, in an effort, a universal effort, to continue a feed system. In other words, those protons feed the atom, the individual atom, and in its cycles. That energy, it sometimes is processed through our body, goes down and is compressed at the Earth's mantle, hot molten lava, and then it cycles through the ocean, which is H2O. That hydrogen energy is then sucked into the moon, and you can tell that's happening because the moon, has an effect on the waves. The waves become high. That's because that energy is cycling through the moon. And this is another part of my new evolved science and helping you to understand what's really going on, is our immediate solar system is all interconnected. There's no other way that it could stay like it is, okay? There's energy cycling between it. It's a cycling system, okay? And part of the ways you can prove this, that energies go in one end and come out, is the fact that we have poles, okay? Now, if you look at Saturn, okay, they've got that geometric thing going on, or Mars, or whatever it is. They just found, I think it was Mars. I don't know, but it's got this geometric pattern on the outer side. That's because of the way that it rotates. There's an invisible, like a core of energy going through there, and as it rotates, it just creates that geometric design. Now, if you look at Saturn, okay, with the hoop around it, okay, think of an opening to an artery, like you split an artery open, okay? Now, you look at that star, the Saturn, and it has a pole coming out one end and going out the other, and there are rings going all the way through. So, in other words, there are varying degrees of energy cycling through it. So, we have a cycling system here. When you look at Saturn, it's tempting to believe that you start at one pole, and those energies or those different types of matter are pancaked on top of each other, but they're not. Those energies are wrapped around the pole. In other words, one ring that you see on the planet goes all the way through, okay? So anyway, I'm totally lost now. I just talked too much. But anyway, in the next videos, I'm going to use the code to correlate Bible terms, old reptile, they're all acronyms. And they were developed to correlate modern science with the Holy Bible for the purpose of revealing pertinent information. And you might say, well, why? What's the necessity of codes and da-da-da? Well, like I said, we're trapped in a dark matter environment. There's been a lot of manipulations and deceptions. You can look on YouTube, and there are literally thousands and thousands of videos. And who do you believe? What's the truth? Well, that's what the codes were developed for, is so that you might be able to look at the information and say, well, this guy's got too much going on here. There's no way he could exaggerate this. There's no way he could make it up. This has to be solid information. And, and let it go at that. I mean, if it's truth, it's truth. How do you deny the truth? I mean, you turn your back on it. What good's that going to do? That doesn't change it. It's still the truth. And actually, the acronym TRUTH is the acronym for the real, untold temporal history. And also, this information is Book of Life. And in addition, something I would like to mention, and I've got a video on it, because I was going to take an hour with this video, and I've still got 12 minutes. When I mention that all of our stars in our immediate solar system are connected, think about this. All DNA is the same thing. All those little DNA strands, they're exactly the same, plus or minus a few equations in there. So there's not a whole lot of difference between, an insect or a cow or a bird and us. It's all the same. What is this? How does that happen? Well, I'm going to tell you that at one point, our immediate solar system was a different entity. It was a solid band of light energy. Now, you can look it up on the internet, or you can look on my other channel, Reverend Dr. Lee channel. They found something in science called a watery quasar. In other words, this unbelievable system that has a galaxy of water going around it. And what I'm telling you is that's where our universe originated from. throughout increments of times and just cause and effect, we've ended up a separate entity over here. And basically, our universe used to be a solid band of light energy, and it cycled. And throughout increments of time, it started building up different amounts of dark matter and different frequencies, which developed into our star system, okay? And what happened, at one point, there was an ignition, okay? And what happened is there was a break in this early system that separated between the sun and the moon, okay? A break. So you have a masculine end of this original and universal DNA strand. The masculine end, or the sun, started spewing out this pure energy that was in the cycling system, or the first universal DNA strand, which was a complete circle, okay? Now, when it started spewing out that energy, it was the pure life energy, and that was injected into dark matter, okay? Now, there were various interactions between the sun and the moon, or the masculine and feminine, and it developed into the earth, okay? And earth is where all of these variables that can afford life come into life. We all come from that very first event. We're all, you know, if you see what I'm saying, okay, that's why there's the same DNA strand in all living things. And I absolutely cannot talk about. I'll make probably another one of these videos by next weekend. You know, if you see this information and you like it, like I say, I have this other channel, Reverend Dr. Lee 777 at gmail.com. I have explanations for everything. The origin of the DNA strand, which I just told you, what the pyramids were used for. All of this information, it's here now. So if you hear this and you like this, please share it with the next person, because I need to tell you, I have had my information for 8 or 9 years now. I've been trying to get it out to people for that long, and I haven't been having any luck. I don't know all of the reasons why, but I do know that there is something that's in us, and I'll mention that in the next video. There is a reactive principle in life that wants to keep us dumbfounded, keep us ignorant, and keep us, you know, integrated and enmeshed in dark matter. It does not want us to become light beings. And I don't want anybody to think I'm paranoid and delusional, but there are some truths that should actually scare a person more than, you know, the worst horror story you've ever heard. But anyway, God bless, and that's that.